In the last video for this review, we are going to do all kinds of factoring. Before we actually factor, though, I want to talk about what is the greatest common factor of these three terms. For numbers, it looks like 4 is the biggest number that's going to go into 4, 16, and 12. So 4. And then for letters, they all have an X. No, they don't. This last one doesn't have an X, so I cannot include X in my GCF. They do all have a Y, and what I look for then is the smallest power on the Y's. 7, 3, and 4. 3 is the smallest power, so that means a Y cubed could be divided out of all three of these. So that is the greatest common factor. Now, as we factor these polynomials, the first thing I look for every single time is a greatest common factor other than 1. And in this case, I believe the greatest common factor is 1. So I cannot factor out a greatest common factor, but I can factor by grouping. I always end my first group after the second term and start the second group before this sign, whether it's positive or negative. Now, is there a greatest common factor of these two terms? There is. It's 1x squared. So x squared is the greatest common factor here. So I'm going to factor out an x squared. 3x cubed divided by x squared is 3x. Negative 5x squared divided by x squared is negative 5. And then here in the second group, I always factor out this sign. It happens to be negative. And I believe the GCF is 3. So I'm going to factor out negative 3. Negative 9x divided by negative 3 is 3x. 15 divided by negative 3 is negative 5. And now for these two terms, the greatest common factor is 3x minus 5. And if I factor that out, I'm going to have my x squared minus 3 multiplied by 3x minus 5. That is my factored form. Here, it looks like greatest common factor is the only thing I'm going to be able to factor out. And I believe the number for the GCF is 4. All the terms do have an x. The lowest is the first power, so 4x. All the terms have a y, and the lowest power on the y is 3. So 4xy cubed is my GCF. And now we'll divide. 4 divided by 12. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And then subtract the exponents. 5 minus 1 is 4. 3 minus 3 is 0, so there's no x's there. Negative 4 divided by 4 is negative 1. 9 minus 1 is 8, so x to the 8th. 5 minus 3 is 2, y squared. And then 20 divided by 4 is 5. 1 minus 1 is 0, so no x's. 9 minus 3 is 6, y to the 6th. And there's our factored form. Here I do not see a GCF other than 1. It's a trinomial. So let's do this. Two numbers that multiply to negative 35 and add to 2. So two numbers that do that, I think 7 and negative 5 will multiply to negative 35 and add to 2. So p plus 7 times p minus 5 is the factored form. Here we have another one similar to this, except here the lead coefficient was 1, here it's 7. So we're going to combine some skills here. So first, 7 times 6, that's 42. I need numbers that multiply to 42 and add up to the middle term still, the middle coefficient, 43. And I think 42 times 1 is 42, and 42 plus 1 is 43. So we are going to take this 43 here and split it into 42 plus 1. So we've got 7b squared plus 42b plus b plus 6. So the 43b became 42b plus 1b. And then that 6 looks a lot like a b, so we'll try to fix that. And then we will factor by grouping. The greatest common factor here is 7b. And when I divide 7b squared by 7b, I get b. 42b divided by 7b is 6. Here the GCF is 1. So in the second term, second group, I'll factor out a positive 1. And when I divide b plus 6 by 1, I get b plus 6. So we've got 7b plus 1 times b plus 6. Here I've got a difference of squares. 16x squared, the square root of that is 4x. And what's going to happen is I'm going to get a pair of conjugates here. The square root of 81 is 9, once with a plus, once with a minus. Those conjugates are the factored form of that difference of squares. 2 times negative 72 is negative 144, so I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 144 and add up to 7. Those numbers are going to be 9 and negative 16. 9 times negative 16 is negative 144, and this should be negative 7. And 9 plus negative 16 is negative 7. So this negative 7 is going to get split. So I've got 2n squared plus 9n minus 16n minus 72. So negative 7 just became 9 minus 16. First group and second group. First group, the GCF is n. So when I divide these by n, I get 2n plus 9. Second group, the GCF is going to be negative, because that's a negative sign there. And then I believe 8 will be the greatest common factor here. When I divide by negative 8, I get positive 2n and positive 9. So I have n minus 8 as one factor, and the other factor is 2n plus 9. And we'll do one more like that. 15 times 8 is what we have to multiply to. And 15 times 8 is 120, so we need to multiply to 120 and add to 2. And that's actually a negative 120 because it's 15 times negative 8. So we're really going to multiply to negative 120 and add up to 2. And I think we can do that with a 12 and a negative 10. 12 times negative 10 is negative 120. 12 plus negative 10 is 2. So we have 15x squared, and then the 2x becomes 12x minus 10x minus 8. So now we are going to factor by grouping. So I'll group these together and these together. And the GCF here is going to be 3x. And when I divide that, I get 5x plus 4. And the GCF here is going to be negative, because that's a negative there, negative 2. And when I divide these, I get 5x plus 4. So my factored form is 3x minus 2 times 5x plus 4.